Hello, everyone. This is Ernie Humphrey. I'm the CEO and COO of Treasury Webinars. I want to welcome everyone to our webinar today, Cash Application and Deduction Headaches, Your Technology Prescription. This is a topic that still remains near and dear to my heart due to my days as a Treasury manager. Believe me, I have felt all the pain associated with these headaches, and it's been amazing to me to see, especially over the past few years, how technology is actually catching up to help all of us alleviate these headaches. What you'll see today, as always, we'll have a pretty deep dive into the topic. So everyone, strap yourselves in for an exciting adventure today. Before I dive in, I want to thank my webinar partner today, Esker. They share my commitment to thought leadership, but more importantly, they share my commitment to impacting the professional success of those who use their software. Also, want to point out that Esker has amazing thought leadership resources on their website. I actually go there myself to help me stay on top of my game. So I encourage you to visit the Esker website. Two housekeeping items before we dig in. If you're interested in getting a certificate of attendance for today's webinar to submit for continuing education credits, or you would like a copy of today's presentation, please send an email to ernie@treasurywebinars.com. Again, that's ernie@treasurywebinars.com. If you indicated on your registration form that you're interested in a certificate of attendance, fear not, I will automatically send that out to you shortly after the webinar is over. And finally, appreciate your consideration in taking a very short survey at the end of the webinar, as we always strive to improve the ROI we offer for your valuable time. So again, I appreciate you taking time out of your valuable time. You're taking time for you today to invest in our webinar today. So I do appreciate that. So really crisp, but there's a lot of content here. We're going to talk about what I call the cash application nightmare. Then we're going to get into cash application efficiency, the role of technology, and then as always, we're going to give you some actionable advice and some key takeaways. My goal, as always, is to inspire you to take an action from the webinar. So even if it's just asking a colleague a question, taking a note after the webinar is over, and more importantly, I'd love to see you reach out to someone in your department or beyond your department and have a conversation, or even it's just looking up on LinkedIn, looking me up on LinkedIn, looking up your peers on LinkedIn. So we definitely, our goal is to inspire you to take an action. So what about the cash application nightmare? So first, again, we're going to go into the weeds here. So really how it works, there's two different visual approaches, which have both resonated with me. Both are courtesy of my friends at Esker. So we'll talk about the steps and then we'll dig into why it's not quite as easy as it looks. So you get your data, you get your data extraction, you got your payment allocation, your suggestions and exception management, your reconciliation. Then on the back end, we want to have that monitoring analysis. And where we'll focus more in this webinar than I have in the past in regards to cash application is our short pays and exceptions. So we really want to highlight the technology that's available there. Obviously, this is a key piece of cash application. Normally what happens is those short pays will go out of your normal workflow, and it can really impact your efficiency and take up a lot of time for your team, everyone involved in cash application. So on the lower part, again, you got a little bit more detail. You got to aggregate your remittance and payments data. You got to link payments and remittance data. That's something I didn't understand how difficult that was until I really got into the weeds and started working with my cash application specialist at Franklin Electric. Then we got to match payments with open invoices. We got to identify and code deductions, handle exceptions, and then post cash to the ERP. So just a really good slide, especially if you want to share it with someone that doesn't really work in the cash app area. If you really want to get an understanding of that from my treasury folks, this is for you to really understand all the behind the scenes, in the weeds, and how many pain points your colleagues are facing and how we can work with them to alleviate their pain points. All right, I'm going to go ahead and ask a polling question, level set a little bit, asking everyone to share with me what's your organization's biggest challenge with Cash App. Is it not enough staff to Cash App? Cash is unapplied for too long. Deductions, disputes, and exception. Missing remittance information, or maybe there's something that is even more pressing. I appreciate everyone's consideration in answering all of our polling questions today. And if you're interested in receiving a certificate of attendance for today's webinar. You're going to have to answer all of our polling questions today. Again, as always, we have a lot of content. So if you're interested in receiving a copy of today's presentation, please send an email to ernie@treasurywebinars.com. Going to go ahead and leave the polling question up for just another few seconds or so. Want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to answer. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the polling question up for another 10 seconds or so. Then we're going to take a quick peek at the results, and then we're going to dive in to the cash application process, and we'll start off with our remittances process. So I'm going to go ahead and close the polling question here. All right. So let's share the results. So we have 40% missing remittance information, 30% deductions and disputes, and then 16% not enough staff to dedicate to cash application. For me, I would have expected, well, if I'm the Treasury folks, I would have expected me to say cash is unapplied for too long. Again, we're going to talk about why that happens. And just want to note on missing remittance information, we're really going to talk about how technology helps us with this issue. A part of it is just learning what we call AI, right, in today's world, and how we're learning as information is put in. Maybe there's missing information. Maybe your specialist puts in the same information all the time. So when that comes in and it's missing, there'll be a prompt that says, do you want me to fill this in with this information, so you don't have to go back and forth? And deductions, disputes, and exception, again, that'll be a big focus for us today in this webinar, and how technology is allowing us to make that much more efficient in processing those, and also really identifying if there's any trends in those deductions that shouldn't be happening, and then not enough staff with the right technology. I'm confident that you would potentially be able to take something off someone's plate. So you may be able to realize that you have enough staff. In addition to that, also allow your folks who are working in Cash App to focus on more strategic activities, which is certainly a benefit of investing in a software solution that allows you to be more efficient in your cash application, in addition to offering opportunities for your Cash App team to actually deliver strategic value to your organization. So thank you so much, everyone. So just a little bit of a background, just those of you who haven't been involved, this is can be a complicated process here. You get your remittances, you get all these different formats, all this different information, and so all these questions here, especially if we're looking at deductions and short claims, what have we received? Is there a credit note? Is the rebate valid? All these questions that are going to ask, and if you have the right technology, one, you'll be able to dig in and answer these questions. One, you'll be able to get your data imported, and two, you'll be able to communicate directly with colleagues in order to ask these questions, and you'll be able to communicate proactively with your customers. We won't have to go through all these steps of ask the CSR by email, VLOOKUP, search your ERP. So we'll see how technology will allow us. Again, a lot of things in Cash App, if you've never been involved, it seems like it makes sense on paper, like it's really interesting to do, and it's not that difficult. Well, we'll see once you start to dig in that it is. There are a lot of places where we can have bottlenecks and inefficiencies as well. So just look at what I call the ecosystem. We'll look at claims and disputes. So if you just look at all the dynamics going on here, I would call this the hairball. I'll call this the claims and disputes hairball. So let's go ahead. So you have the buyer, the purchase order. We have folks in your customer service being involved. You can have your logistics involved, the person that receives the invoice. You can have sales on your team, AR, your AP clerk on the other side. So you can just see that there are a lot of moving pieces here, and depending on how your workflow goes, it can be as complicated or as efficient as the technology and your customer relationships are as well. So one of the things I want to point out, one of the things that technology does, which doesn't get enough credit for, is it facilitates, right, building a relationship. So we have buyer customer service. There's a relationship. Let's invest in that, right? If you're communicating with someone in logistics, if your logistics person is communicating with this person, we have to empower them to have relationships. And then this is a whole nother issue, but oftentimes we have some friction between on the supplier side, sales and the AR department, and your customer on the AP clerk side. So we need to make sure that we have a consistent message with our sales and AR department, with our AP clerk at our customer, because what's going to happen if we have some, I will call them nasty communications, that's going to impact our customer. Believe me, that's going to get all the way up to the person that's control of purchasing goods and services from your company, and that's going to cause a problem. And sometimes just working in silos, right, with sales and AR department, that can cause issues as well if we're not on the same page. Potentially your salesperson promised all these discounts and it really wasn't noted, it wasn't formalized, and then your AR department's going back to the AP clerk and say, hey, what's going on here? We never authorized this. What are you guys trying to pull, and all that good stuff. So the tone and tenor of that messaging is important as well. So again, this really shows the claims and disputes, that the ecosystem just really shows how much friction can be caused in the cash application process if we are getting claims and disputes. And then, of course, claims and disputes, whether or not they're valid or not, is often up for question. So let's look at some obstacles to efficiency, right, that we face. So let's start over here with our cash app challenges. What we want to do is have fast and accurate allocation to keep accounts clear. What can happen if your accounts aren't clear? One thing that would happen to me was that Treasury was involved in approving orders. So someone due to the ERP system has gone over their credit limit and the cash hasn't cleared yet. Well, what actually happened was they sent in a payment and it hasn't been applied yet. So I might tell my customer, well, hold this, put it on hold. It may be really important. It's going to damage the relationship. The other thing that can happen is if you are proactively managing your credit risk exposure. So let's say you're looking at FX risk, right, or industry risk. So things that aren't applied could make you believe that you are over or under your FX limit, so you can be overexposed or underexposed in meaningful ways, and this can cause you to potentially take actions, maybe get derivatives and things like that. So there's a lot of places for potential realignment. Again, and also again in managing risk areas. Oh, I think, well, look at this big overexposure to this industry, then we can't take any new customers. Well, that's not true. The cash hasn't been applied, so that's really important. Challenges, you can receive remittance information from multiple sources and formats. We'll definitely touch on that. There's emails, people still sending paper. There's various ways that information is exchanged electronically. And sometimes you have to manage complex data combinations, and then you also have to really look at the cash application in terms of a company. So is there a parent-child relationship? How is that credit managed across the whole organization? Is it managed even by that company with a certain entity based on the location that they're in, the currency? So there's a lot of things there. Then we have to identify and process exceptions, right? What are we going to do when things aren't matching up on the way in? And then we have to make all the required adjustments to all accounts in our ERP system. So then if we look at the deductions challenges, really what happens is we get into issues of accounting errors or cause. We have a lack of visibility and traceability if we don't have a system in place that starts from the time there's a dispute or a potential dispute that comes to fruition. Is it getting in the system? How is it getting in the system? How is it getting routed? How is it getting addressed? And things like that. You can have multiple departments involved, which is not uncommon in your deductions. And then investigations are time consuming. So when I was in Treasury, I used to chase money around. I called myself the payments detective. And in this case, you're going to be the deductions detective. So they took this deduction. Why did they take it? Was it something that was offered, something they took? Was it something that our sales guys promised that we don't know about? And then all these challenges are going to, what happens is it's going to dilute our profit if we just, that's deductions, that's fine, we don't have to chase that. It's not worth, chasing. So it's not material enough to go around and chase that around. That's not the right mindset. Of course, with certain customers, you may give a one-time leeway, but if you really don't pay attention to that on the way in, then you're just impacting your bottom line. And you're also, so I guess that's enough said. So just some of the impacts of poor cash application. You have inaccurate customer accounts, inaccurate credit situation, I mentioned, managing exposures. We have inaccurate collection, unaccounted cash. It causes complexity, increasing processing costs, inaccurate customer accounts. It creates an asymmetry of information. So in my Treasury example, it would be this. The Treasury person who's making a credit person doesn't know what the actual exposure is, what the actual amount of credit on their line is, versus the person who's on Cash App. Hey, the money came in, or maybe a different Treasury person. Hey, the money came in. So we're making an uninformed decision, and then just inaccurate credit situation that causes low morale for order to cash teams. And there is absolutely a war for talent in and across the office of the CFO. So having technology that mitigates time spent on non-value activities is really important in retaining your team, but also if you're going to recruit. Say you're doing a big expansion, maybe you're going more internationally, you'd like to have someone who has an international business focus, you want to add them on. That way you have to incent them to come to your organization. And having poor and out-of-date technology and systems and processes and people that work in silos is not going to be good. You're not going to be able to get the person that you deserve. And then what happens, I mentioned this, when we have issues with our customers, possibly they paid, we're saying they didn't pay, that causes an issue with your customer. You can lose customers, you can cause that dissatisfaction, you can pass on orders that you would like to take. Maybe it's a new customer, so you're losing customers on the front end, you're losing that recurring revenue or deepening those relationships with your customers. And then that also gives a poor image of your organization, right? So what we sent them money, they can't even apply the cash, or for some reason, let's say, oh, we sent them money, they sent it back, but they don't even want to take our money. So cash application can have big impacts on the bottom line. So again, in maybe a non-visual manner, I like the visual. I like the list. It inflates your processing cost. It impacts your productivity within and beyond your AR team. You have unnecessary customer disputes, which causes unhappy customers, which can cause them to back away or discontinue doing business with you, look for someone else. That has negative impacts to working capital. As I discussed, we're not making informed decisions on maybe our borrowing, our inventory, things of that nature, and then it inflates our risk exposures. It can inflate our risk exposures, as well as I mentioned, if that cash isn't being applied and we don't have visibility into the actual nature quantitatively of the risks that we are exposed to at a certain time, and then how we are reacting to those exposures, and we're not able to manage those successfully. So let's look at some top line, get to really some tips, recommendations to improve efficiency. These are specific things that you can start using right after the webinar is over. And some of this content that I share, some of it seem like common sense, but some of it's just to make you think. So, oh, I haven't thought about that in a while. Or maybe I want to have a conversation with my main Cash App person. Oh, this is a question I want to ask. I haven't asked this question. Maybe I want to ask it this way. So it's going to facilitate a conversation, which is ultimately going to benefit your organization in terms of that bottom line impact. So for me, you always say, okay, where am I at, right? Where do I want to be and how do I get there? The first thing we need to do is understand where we're at. Sometimes it's painful. So take a dive into your cash application process, including all systems and services, and also all the people used to apply cash. So you have to dig into the weeds quite a bit. Do you have the data you need to apply cash efficiently and effectively? Same word. If not, then why not? You should identify the bottlenecks and root causes of each blockage, or I would say friction causing pain point. Again, what are the bottlenecks? What are the causes? And then who are your most challenging customers and why? So I think that's a really important question to look at. So I always share this when we talk cash application. We had a big customer when I was a treasury manager, And this is back before remittance information was exchanged in any type of efficient way. We got a wire transfer in. Biggest customer, it took 5 or 6 days to apply that cash. So we really want to take a look at, those customers. But let's say even start with, okay, who are our top 10 or top 5 challenging customers? Why is it? What are the characteristics? And then this can really help you move your metrics and really understand. So if you are more efficient in getting your metrics tight on your most challenging customers, well, that's going to trickle down to everyone else. So you're just going to get better across the board. And if you leverage lockboxes and understand how the provider is impacting your cash application efficiency, what data is being captured, what's the quality of the data, what's the timing of quality and files being emailed to your company, how much involvement does your IT team consistently need to have in managing those transmissions. Ensure that I mentioned this a little earlier, ensure your, I call this your customer master is mapped correctly. Invoices are often closed at a parent level, with deductions being posted at the child level. So we have to make sure that the customer master is capturing the way that we are doing business with a company, is consistent with the way we want to manage that company and the way that the accounting is being done for that company as well. And then we want to ensure that you have technology that allows for the capture of remittance data across multiple sources. I would imagine everyone in here is getting multiple sources. You can get an email from the body, documents, there's web portals, and then there's EDIs as well. So there are many different ways. So not having the technology can cause a huge issue. And some of this helps define the value proposition of investing in that technology. When you really look at all the time that is being spent, all the back and forth, all the time on the phone, all the time not spent on value-add activities, that starts to help you define the value proposition. So one is the efficiency and in accomplishing Cash App, right? And also the days, the working capital. So all these things are really important in making that business case. And as much as possible, automate the linking of remittance and payments for electronic payments. So if you're going to make people do this manually, it leads to exceptions, which means time wasted on value-add activities. Just a little preview on the technology side. Again, we have this technology that has AI slash, I know it's not the same, I don't want to talk about all day about AI and machine learning, but when there are adjustments made for certain customers, you can have rules, aggregate rules or customer-based rules, and it's learning on the fly and making sure that time isn't wasted on making the same information, but also can identify things that are out of the ordinary, right? So if you start seeing deductions made for customers, it says, well, why is this? Why is this deduction here? So it proactively will prompt someone using and say, hey, do we really want to do this? Which can be incredibly valuable. You want to define, monitor, and manage the reason code for the short payment of invoices. This is really important. There's a lot of, this is a different webinar, there's a lot of automation that can go on in this area. It comes in based on the reason code. There can be an action, it can be routed, or an email can be sent, and the response is optimized based on the behavior that is seen by your customers based on rules that you have. And then you want to define and monitor cash applications, KPIs, and really invest in understanding what it is that moves those KPIs in the wrong direction. So let me go ahead and launch next polling question for you. Just want to ask you, what technology do you use to support cash application process? You should be able to select more than one option there. Appreciate everyone's consideration in answering all of our polling questions here today. Again, if you're interested in receiving CTP credit, CTP credit, or any other certification, continuing education credits, you'll have to answer all the polling questions here today as well. I'm going to go ahead and leave the polling question up for another few seconds, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at the results real quick, and then I'll just kind of comment on what I'm seeing and some of the opportunities that I've seen from companies of all sizes to potentially upgrade to leveraging a cash application specific, really that as a module of a more robust AR automation solution. So I'm going to go ahead and close polling question here for you guys. Let's take a quick peek here. So we have 14% of you have a fully automation solution. So if you have the solution in place for you, I would have your mindset being, okay, what is the solution do we have that we have in place? Is it capable of addressing all the issues that we see here? And so you might want to say, wait a minute, this is out there, right? This isn't what we have. Let me go back and ask a question. Why can't we do this? When are you going to be able to do this? And in today's world, most of the solutions, a full automation solution is usually a cloud-based solution. So it would be possible to switch solutions in a fairly painless manner. The one way that I've seen big companies do that is if they make an acquisition, maybe you have an automation solution and you're like, I see this solution here. Oh, well, someone like Esker, they can do this. Maybe we bring them on and see the power what this has, and that helps give people make that informed decision. So those of you who primarily use ERP, I would say the AR automation solutions slash cash application modules really supercharge, right, your ERP system, and they can work in conjunction with the ERP and even in conjunction with Excel for passing data back and forth. I'm confident with the right AR automation solution, I would say doing the analysis in Excel would probably no longer be required in your ERP system. I think it supercharges that, the functionality of your ERP system to optimize your cash application. Thank you so much, everyone. So now let's dive into the technology side. So you want to look for the right mix of technologies. These terms are thrown around real quick. I mentioned a few of them. RPA, you automate simple repetitive tasks, same thing over and over. Deep learning in our area, think of it, you can identify claims in an upcoming flow of emails. And then machine learning, you can improve data extraction accuracy and application, and you can actually see that if there's certain things being done or if there are mistakes being done, they can be corrected and rules can be created and rules can be changed as well. And then we have process automation and ERP integration. So a lot of the systems out there like Esker, there is integration into all of your systems. So you can pass the information back and forth and not easily, but pretty painlessly do the analysis that you need to do in order to identify potential problems that exist and opportunities for more efficiency. So just diving in a little bit, certain areas, I love how this is broken out depending on, okay, this is our specific problems. So what does that look like, right? How does the technology help us do that in a leading system? So your scenario, all direct payments from a customers to a bank. So you have your payment types, you have your SEPA, your ACH, or your wire transfer. So we got our customer here, they're going to pay the bank. You got the remittance here, right? It's going to go over here. So how does it work? You can have the bank statement, can be sent, it can be submitted. Solution searches for the corresponding invoices based on the customer and the open AR account and compares between the 2 or 3 sources of information. If the remittance is found, matching is made by comparing payment file data with the remittance file data. And if no remittance is found, matching can be based on the payment amount, additional data extraction from the payments file, etc. So obviously it's important that you set up your rules and your processing, but there are multiple ways and multiple levers that we can use in order to allocate payments directly from our bank statements, which I'm fairly certain. I know when I was in Treasury, this was not even possible. So you might want to allocate a payment from a checks, which is associated with, to me, I'm thinking in lockbox terms, right? Because we had a lot of lock boxes and there was a lot of efficiency back then. And the big reason it was valuable for us was the remittance information, because that was a way for us to get that remittance information in, to get that money into our account right away as soon as possible and get that remittance information. So checks send customers to the vendor, be directly sent to you, or it can be sent to your lockbox, and then hopefully there's some remittance information on there. So checks have to be scanned. You can produce a check file, so that can be done by your lockbox, or lockbox provider can done by yourself. The check can be hopefully automatically imported, and data is extracted to create payments which match against the open AR data. So obviously there's some processing going on there, but the image, the ability to process that data efficiently, and also, I mean, the accuracy is important as well. The total amount from the bank can be ignored. It requires configuration. So sometimes there's things that don't match, and that's where we oftentimes had issues back in the day when I was working with my Cash App person. They were trying to reconcile amounts, and they didn't work, and it was very, very difficult to make those amounts reconciled. So allocating payments from checks, these are to me, the most painful ways to do that right now. Just what I said before, this is a lockbox, very similar where it comes in, so I won't go through that. Again, if you want a copy of the presentation, just let me know. And then you can also allocate payments from an external provider. So we'll say it's from an e-commerce or customer portal. So oftentimes this is a relatively more efficient way to get that data over that you want, but also in the format that you'd like it to as well. So either the payment report goes to the vendor, the deposit goes to the bank, and then receipt of the payments file is created by the application to match against the open AR data. So to me, this is where the future is, and this is where I'd like to get my customers to go. And then obviously you work with your IT team to work on the format of that file, so that when the file comes in, boom, it goes, and Cash App hit rate is as high as possible. And in today's world, the amount of support that you get from your provider helps mitigate the time spent with your IT team. You have to set a lot of these feeds up, but back in the day when I was doing it, there was always a lot of configuration that went on, and the file broke and all that good stuff. And those issues to some extent have been mitigated with the quality of the data feeds going back and forth, and the less complication, because the systems are actually made to communicate with each other, whereas before trying to get a file from a bank was kind of like a root canal. So we manage that. So I'm going to dive into a few areas of, again, digging into certain areas, so you can, those of you that feel these pain points can really see, oh, yep, that's what we have. Okay, great. This is how the technology actually works. I can see the ROI and the role that technology is playing to remove our pain points. So you have remittance management, which is really important. Configuration, ERP integration is obviously important as well. We touched on that before, but I want to focus here, due to our limited time together today, importing remittance, right? And then with the technology, we can have what you call intelligent reporting, and then we can leverage AI with remittance processing, again, to recognize key fields and data that allow us to apply cash. And part of that obviously is recognizing the right GL codes and the application of things, that data. And then we want to look at remittance data extraction. So we have to be able to receive the image, be best quality in reading it, and then once we're able to read it, we need to intelligently route that if we need to do that. And then with the remittance processing, we have a system that is really keeping track of issues that are creating bottlenecks and helps us mitigate any bottlenecks that we might see going forward. So remittance, so you have, right, different ways to do it. You can have paper, scan, and forward remittances by email, or there's actually a specific solution for certain applications. And then email, user can forward remittance emails to solution, or you can set up that rule as well. You can see the flexibility there. AI-driven technology identifies remittances from incoming emails and automatically routes them to the solution. So if you have a shared inbox, the solution can go out there automatically, say, oh, if it sees this, if it sees a certain PDF or from a certain email, then it's going to automatically route that to the solution. And then also, if you're using a customer, if customer is wanting to send information by customer portal, bots can be created to receive remittances from customer portals. I've seen this in action. This to me is mind-blowing given what I used to see. So the solution will actually go out. There's no touch to it. Can go out, boom, log into their system, pull that remittance information, and pull that in without any human interaction. So pretty impressive. So there's just some different steps, digging a little bit here again. First time recognition. So it can provide three-way matching and accurate reconciliation, even from the most complex remittance seen for the first time. So it's really built to deal with complexities. So this is good to know whether you have complexity already, or as your company grows, especially you're going across borders, going across international borders, that complexity is going to increase. And then the machine learning, it learns again from users' corrections. As the knowledge base grows, your hit rate is going to grow, and then it allows you to maintain control by recognition criteria for specific remittance layouts. So it allows you to apply certain rules to certain customers if you want to allow them to have a certain invoice type, especially if you're dealing with Fortune 50 or Fortune 100 companies. You're probably won't have much luck on going back to them and telling them how to redo the remittance information that you get. So it's important to have that flexibility. And then we'll talk a little bit about allocating payments. So automated allocation, this is where obviously we like to see as few hands in something as possible, as little bottlenecks, as little human interaction as necessary to get that cash applied correctly. So machine learning types of issues, let's just say regarding payer name, invoices are sent to the customer paid by different payers. Invoices may be sent to different subs and paid by the same payer. So again, to me, this goes back to the subsidiary issue, parent-child issue. I remember when I was working in Treasury for the same company, had Gould's, they had like 50 different names in the system for it. So it recognizes those types of things. And one, you should clean up your master file, but if that's not the case, so it can learn from user choices and establish payer customer links, and then it can reuse those choices for further payment allocation. So it really helps mitigate time that's spent on the same issues. Oftentimes, it's hard, if you're just not in that mindset. We see the same thing over and over and over. And Ernie, instead of going back to the customer and trying to fix it, we're just going to keep fixing it every single time, and we're fixing it for every single customer. So let's say we have a huge organization, we might get hundreds of payments. If you're retail, you get thousands of payments, and imagine how much time that saves. And then you want to dial in on exceptions handling. So the management of claims and deductions is really where I've seen some tremendous improvements in technology and functionality. We can look at early payment discounts. We can put a tolerance for over and under payments. Again, manage claims and deductions. We can allocate payments in foreign currencies, which is important, whether we have those now or we're going to go to those later as we go across borders. And this allows us to better manage our FX risk exposures. And then it can also allow us to recycle a payment or even skip a payment as well. So what are the exceptions you see? Early payment discounts, trade promotion deductions, disputes and claims, rounded amounts for payments in different currencies. I've actually heard of this issue before. Trade promotion deductions. Oh, we weren't made aware of that. So there's something that went on. AR is not made aware of this. So pretty much everything that comes in for the next 4 or 5 months is going to be a short pay. Well, so okay, so we want to make sure first that doesn't happen, but if it does happen, that we can see that we have rules, that we can recognize those and look at those rules to make sure we don't deal with that, so everything does not automatically fall into that manual intervention. So the manual claims processing, what you would see, you have claims submission, right, a payment, a document pushed on the portal, and you have a claim reception. You got to look at when it was received, hasn't been processed yet, all the points in the process that can cause us headaches. Then you say we need to figure out which customer sent the claim, what's the type of claim, is there a matching trade motion, do we have all the documents? So just going from left to right, you can see all of these potential areas that we're going to have to require information, more information or clarification of information, and then just having that understood, read, and the routing approval. The routing workflow is tremendously important. So having these rules in place, okay, the rule, it's a short pay. Okay, has it been processed yet? Yes or no? Well, sometimes something's been reconciled before the payment comes in. Okay, which customer sent the claim? Okay, where does this automatically go? Who needs to approve it? And then boom, when this claim is approved, what are the associated GL entries that are associated with that? And then how do we manually archive that credit as well? So just looking at in the short payments, the solution can identify in remittance negative line items other than credit notes are identified as deduction claim. Go in and do that in the invoice. The deduction status, you can see that in the solution as well. And then you can create a new deduction claim. So if no claim is found, a new one can be created. So we're just looking at that machine learning and intelligence in action. So here's just some workflows. I'm not going to go through all these workflows in detail because there's too much on the slide, but this is really compelling if you want to get a copy of the slides. And of course, you'll be able to listen to the recording as well. So you can actually see how the process works. So you can see this is how, and this is a process that is efficient. So if you were to actually map how this actually works, if you have some manual intervention, there would be another hairball. So I think it's just compelling here. So one, if you received it before payment and it's resolved before the payment comes, that is the optimal workflow there. So sends claim, sends remittance, we get the extraction and validation, right? Retrieve a claim, we're already good. That's going through our ERP system. So we want to look here before we look at the other situation. So we got the claim, we got remittance, we got look for claim, retrieve credit note, boom, payment allocation. So pretty slick as far as that, how complicated this can get. And then if it's received after the payment, well, then we have to request a claim. The claim isn't open. So it's the other one is proactively open. Then the extraction and validation, we have to look for the claim, we have to create a new claim, and we have to provide the credit note. So there's much more interaction here on the extraction and validation and the remittance extraction and cash allocation process. And then if you really want to look at the dynamics, and this is a lot, but this really shows the complication that is really involved in the cash application process, and claims and deductions are part of that process. I believe escrow actually has a specific module for claims and deductions. So there's obviously a tremendous amount of value in being more efficient in that part of your cash application. So again, just looking at all of the different scenarios, and to me, what this speaks to is all of the potential places for manual intervention, for confusion, but it also looks at all the scenarios. So when you're going back and you are creating all of your processes and your workflows, and you're looking at, okay, how things work, look at how things work the way you do them now, and then just look at how much more efficient it's going to be if you are able to find a solution that supports removing those inefficiencies as well, and takes a lot of the manual process out and frees up your team to focus on more strategic activities, like all the relationships that we need to be having, not only with our customers, but internally as well. So let me go ahead and share next polling question with you. Just asking you, which of the following is the biggest contributor to your unapplied cash? Is it remittance information, accuracy, duplicate payments, the timeliness, or under or overpayments. So I don't know if those are necessarily a bad thing. They're bad for cash out, of course. So I appreciate everyone's consideration in answering the polling question. Of course, if you're interested in a certificate of attendance, you'll have to answer all the polling questions. If you have any questions, please drop those into the questions area, the GoToWebinar control panel. If I don't get to your questions, I will follow up with you directly after the webinar is over. Also encourage everyone, if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. And I have a lot of connections, 20,000. So sometimes if you are having a challenge, a specific challenge, maybe in Cash App, I can probably connect you with someone that's facing the same challenges as you as a peer who probably has spent some time in finding the solution. So that's always valuable, those peer-to-peer connections. So I'm going to go ahead and close that and then go ahead and share the results really quickly. So a lack of remittance information is by far 57%, inaccuracy, timeliness, and 10% over and under payments. So I'm puzzily surprised to see it's not good to have over and under payments, but that those can cause a lot of consternation, as well as the remittance information. So the remittance information is a combination of working with your customers and the solution as well. So I guess it's a lack of remittance information. Is it information that you need to have, right, to get that cash applied? And then is there a way for someone to manually, is there a way for someone to automate that, automatically put that information in for a customer? So is a lack of remittance information, is it the same across all your customers? Is it the same for a customer? Is it something that is critical? And so it's a balancing act of working with your customers and showing them the advantage to, if they are not sending you electronic information, AR process well on your side is AP efficiency on their side. So sometimes you have to look at that as well. So that's obviously a key pain point. And so I think we've shown that the ability to effectively process all different types of remittance information issues as well. The accuracy of the information, that was probably going to fall probably more back on your customers, and so that's a collaboration issue, which is facilitated by good communication and also mitigated by a lack of asymmetry of information. So if we can all be looking at the same thing at the same time, ability to do that is going to help. And some certain systems allow you to message directly. So you can actually directly message to your colleagues on the other side, maybe your AP colleague, and ask them questions specifically, send that information, tie everything together so it's visible in the system. So everything that's going on with the specific payment or invoice is documented, and that's incredibly helpful if you're having issues to resolve them in a timely manner, but also help mitigate those issues going forward with the same customer. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking time to answer the polling question. So let's talk about how to prevent, or should we say facilitate, the efficiency on the claims and deductions, commitment to order accuracy. So that needs to be, I would say, a culture. You should involve other departments in the order and invoice processing from the get-go. And the technology allows us to have our relevant documents easily accessible by everyone involved. So again, that mapping process, give that 360-degree view of that information. So anyone that can potentially impact your cash application efficiency, we want to make sure that they have the ability to see what they need to see, to make informed decisions if they need to make decisions, and also answer their own questions. Oftentimes that helps a lot. And then we want to have communications with customers that matter. To me, I always advise there should be a reason code for each communication. There should be a desired action, and we should be tracking that desired action for that customer. We should also manage the number of communications with our customers on an aggregate level. So we have to look at, and also managing the tone of the communication as well. and also the machine learning and AI can help us learn what is the most efficient way to address an issue. A lot of times those communications with customers, you have to have the right template, but those can be automated and those can really speed up the process rather than having so many phone calls. It can be like personalized. Hey, Joan, I see that the invoice amount doesn't match XYZ. Can you please let me know, can you please respond as soon as possible without someone having to manually go in there and say, oh, can't do that. Okay, I'm gonna call Joan on the phone. Well, Joan's not here. I have to leave a voicemail. I have to call Joan back. So that's important as well. And then do use the information and the technology to optimize processes for deductions prevention. So just make sure that that people don't have an incentive to take those deductions that aren't there. This is especially important if, excuse me, if you've had clients that have continually taken deductions. You might have to involve your sales team, but you need to have a unified front. You can't have your sales guy saying one thing and your AR team trying to enforce something different. That just creates issues for your customer that can impact your bottom line. And so the resolution efficiently, this is again what technology facilitates. Focus on a timely review and follow up. Make sure that you give your team the tools to do that. It's important to have ability to quickly gather and retrieve associated documents. Again, the technology facilitates that. Everything related to an invoice or a payment and all the internal communications, having that in one place. Communicate and collaborate with other departments. Again, leveraging reporting and analytics. We want to be in continuous communication with our customer. We want to have proactive issue resolution. And a lot of times we can mitigate those issues by being proactive. And then we want to be able to clear the deduction as soon as possible, validating or rejecting the claim. And then we want to apply when you're doing a credit memo, write off the amount and transmitting the information to the ERP. So to make sure that information is getting to the place where it needs to go, getting applied to the right areas with the right GL codes as soon as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a final polling question here as I make some closing comments. So I would appreciate everyone's consideration in answering our polling question here today. First, it's really valuable to you, but it's also a courtesy to my partner, Esker, whose commitment to thought leadership helps make this webinar possible and allows me to do what I do and offer it to you at no cost. So just some key takeaways before we wrap things up. The applications of checks and electronics to OpenAR is messy. So you need that business case. I'll probably give you a couple of slides. You can show, hey, I want to invest in cash application efficiency. You can certainly, hopefully you can certainly show the value there, all the potential bottlenecks, but also it can also be important if your company is growing rather quickly. You want to be able to be ready, right, for the cash application challenges before you get them, so you can grow into the solution, right? You have all this great functionality, it works really well. Maybe your situation is not extremely complex yet, but it's going to be nice to have a system that is ready when those complications really come along, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, reinvent processes, realize that your technology is creating issues with your customers. Yeah, we're growing, but now we're irritating all of our customers, which is causing a big problem, and we're not servicing our existing customers and our new customers. So I'm going to go ahead and close the polling question here. If you guys please just do me a favor and just click on that, I'd really appreciate it. All right, thank you very much. And so we've shown technology can mitigate and even eliminate cash application efficiencies. Obviously, it's not magic, but there's an awful lot of potential there if you work with the right partner who actually has a commitment to your customer success. And companies like Esker, I know they have that. Cash application done right has bottom line impacts. It can certainly offer ROI, one, in terms of efficiency. A lot of times people are amazed in the cost of Cash App and efficiency to their company, the cost in terms of the processing costs, right? And then you start to look at everyone's time, put that into it, but then also the damage that you're doing to your customer relationships and the ROI of allowing people to be more strategic with their time. Maybe you can put folks on other maybe cross projects and things that offer strategic value. And a part of Cash App automation that you're going to see of increasing importance, which is great, cash applications, deduction, management automation, because that's a key piece of where people really struggle with that piece of cash application. And then finally, cash application and claims and deduction management, it matters for your organization. I want to once again thank my webinar partner, Esker, for their commitment to thought leadership. And I want to thank each and every one of you for investing your valuable time with me today. Make the rest of your day great, everyone.